Feisty, fearless, and fair. She's an Emmy-winning journalist from the White House to war zones, telling all sides of the story. This is the Rita Cosby Show.
I know your name is Rita, 'cause your perfume is smelling sweet. Since when I saw you down on the floor. Guitar.
Breaking news.
And tonight on the Rita Cosby Show, the Houthis, which is a terrorist proxy group of Iran. These are the ones based in Yemen and the ones who are targeting U.S. ships and others. We heard a lot about it right after October 7th. Well, the Houthi leader is coming out and saying our fingers are on the trigger, meaning that they are being activated by Iran and saying that they are ready to enter the war, obviously on behalf of Iran. Now, Iran has all these different proxy groups, the Houthis in Yemen, it's got Hamas in Gaza, and it's got Hezbollah to the north of Israel in Lebanon. And Hezbollah has been firing consistently on Israel with a lot of these missiles. And that is pretty much these rockets and missiles. These are a lot of essentially what the Houthis have, especially heavily armed with rockets. They can cause a lot of damage on their small little ships into the ocean. And today, a pretty frightening scene. Tens of thousands of protesters against the U.S. and Israel there in Yemen. It was a massive crowd. And there is word that they are eyeing a place called the Bab al-Mandab Strait. And that would be another waterway that could be blocked by them. And apparently, I think it's about 10% of all shipping globally goes through there. So that could really cause big damage and a big chokehold if indeed it gets paralyzed there. And then while they're dealing with the Strait of Hormuz, obviously, if they are being activated, they could create a lot of damage and diversion and also send U.S. troops in one location while they're also having their head of the snake, Iran, trying to put pressure on the U.S. elsewhere, even though clearly Iran has been decimated, very much degraded. Right now, they're trying for any sort of Hail Mary move that they could possibly do. Also, we're waiting to see what happens with funding for DHS. As of now, it is not funded, and President Trump is going to go forward with paying TSA workers, saying there's no way that he's going to have TSA workers sleeping in cars, giving blood, being exhausted on the job. He has such respect for our men and women there at TSA, as we all should. And earlier today, Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, came out and he was furious at the bill that was given to him by the Senate, saying, this is a joke. We will not sign it. So that's why the House is working on their own package. Take a listen to what the Speaker said.
This has to stop. The Republicans are not going to be a party to this. They have taken hostage the funding processes of government so that they can impose their radical agenda on the American people, and we can't have any part of it. This gambit that was done last night is a joke. I'm quite convinced that it can't be that every Senate Republican read the language of this bill, and I'm going to just read you one excerpt of it because it's pretty alarming, and it says everything that you need to know in Section 4. This is on page 2 of the bill. This is an actual copy of the bill. That excerpt. It says, quote, "The contents printed under the headings of this bill, U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement and Border Security Operations, under the heading of U.S. Customs and Border Patrol and Protection, shall have no force or effect for purposes of this act, and amounts specified in the final bill under the subheading Border Security Operations and under the heading U.S. Customs and Border Protection and under the headings of U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement in the Department of Homeland Security shall be zero." We're not doing that. And it is unconscionable to me that the Democrats would force some sort of negotiation at 3 o'clock in the morning and try to hoist this upon the American people and then get on their jets and go home for their holiday and pretend and think that we're going to go along with that.
And as we speak, the House is still debating it. They're about to be voting at any moment on their measure. We'll keep you posted how that goes. And here's a TSA agent Jackson Oliver describing how tough this has been for them.
At what point did you realize you needed a second job?
Yeah, I actually got my second job after the first shutdown that happened last fall. Fortunately, I was able to make things happen with my scheduling, but even then, trying to manage full-time schooling, I'm doing flight training right now locally, and so, again, it's just a lot of juggling, a lot of rearranging those payments that are due in our day-to-day lives.
So sad and so horrible that they are putting these wonderful people, their lives in jeopardy. And meanwhile, it's like the Democrats are in la-la land. You got to hear this one from Eric Swalwell, of course, Democrat of California. He said there can't be that much crime or migrants to remove because they're able to put ICE agents in the airport. That's a real doozy. Listen to that one.
Well, let me ask you this. If there's such a problem of violent immigrants in our country, why were they able to put thousands of ICE agents in our airports to hand out bottles of water? I mean, it just shows that this was a solution in search of a problem.
That is the craziest comment I think I have ever heard. But maybe not, because here is Pramila Jayapal. I told you what she says should happen, that illegal migrants should be compensated for the hardship they've had to endure by ICE. Here it is, guys.
Then we also need offensive actions around prosecutions. We need real accountability, because at the end of the day, the people that have been inflicting this harm need to be prosecuted. They need to be brought before us, and they need to be held account for the trauma that they have created, and we are going to have some form of reparation.
I mean, some form of reparation. Tell that to Joe Abram. He testified this week. This is one of the most heartbreaking moments. He's a father. He lost his beautiful daughter to an illegal migrant whose vehicle slammed into the daughter. The migrant had many, many priors. And listen to this angel father. I'd love for Pramila Jayapal to hear him. Take a listen to this.
Katie's not a headline. She was not a statistic. She was someone worth more than being ignored and made invisible, especially in my state. Just because her story was inconvenient. She was my daughter. She should be finishing school right now. She should be planning for her future. She should still be laughing with her family and friends. Instead, her urn sits in a room we constructed to remember her life. I can't bring Katie back. But this committee has the power to examine what failed, to demand transparency, and to ensure policies are judged not by their intentions, but by their outcomes.
Wow. Think about how much he has lost, and now he is trying to help other parents, other families. Pramila Jayapal wants illegal migrants to be compensated for what they say was hardship by law enforcement, trying to appropriately round them up and kick them out of the country, especially those with criminal history. That is a disgrace of what she said. And Harvey Levin on TMZ, he was talking earlier today because the Senate's gone on vacation. The House is now trying to figure it all out, but they're going to soon go on vacation. If it's not figured out, they might get called back. But Harvey Levin says he has a solution, and he is putting all citizens to the test to put Congress on notice. I love this. Take a listen.
I want to talk to everybody in our audience right now that if anybody goes to Disney World with their family for spring break, or goes to a beach somewhere or anywhere on vacation, and you see one of the 535 members of Congress, take a picture and send it to us at TMZ. We will post that picture on our website, on our social media, and we will put it on our television shows. We want to show what they are doing at your expense. And we want everybody to hear that, and we are waiting for those pictures.
I love that. I love that dare. Send it to us. We'll post it all over the place. 1-800-848-9222. 1-800-848-9222. So let's go to Fran in Long Island. Go ahead, Fran, on line 3. Your thoughts tonight.
Hello, Rita. How are you?
I'm good now. I'm much better now that I'm talking to you, Fran.
Absolutely, same here. But after hearing that father talk about his daughter, I'm so depressed. And I was going to call about JD. I think it's JB Pritzker. I don't even know. What is it, JB?
Yes, JB.
Yeah, Pritzker. I mean, he is. I mean, what his interview sums up everything. For him to have the absolute gall, the nerve to go on in an interview on national, TV or radio, whatever he did that interview, to actually blame it on Donald Trump and the Republicans when they're a Illinois, Chicago, there where they are is a sanctuary city because of him, and they don't. He says that they don't cooperate with the federal government, and he blames it on the federal. I mean, I'm lost for words. I am so upset, and I don't know what to do. What do you do, Rita? You know what I'm saying? I got something else, but what do you do when a guy like that on national TV, and then you got the speaker of the speaker for them, Hakeem Jeffries, calling ICE agents, murderers. They're going to murder people in airports. I mean, what do we do, Rita?
Well, you shine sunlight on it for starters, which is what we try to do here on the show, is we try to, at least let people know what the real story is and how ridiculous these people are. And I also hope that more Americans come out because it's common sense. It's obviously completely ridiculous, these comments, and it shows how desperate they are. And that's why people need to get out and vote and need to speak up, and good people need to stand together because that's the bottom line. It's like it's an alternate universe, right, Fran? I mean, it really is. It's so shockingly crazy.
See, that's why I love you, because you're so even. Like, I mean, you could, like, if you were a Democrat right now, you would be screaming your explanation to me. You know what I mean? You're so even keeled. You don't hate. You're a wonderful person, but now you couldn't be more right. But the thing is this: we do live in an alternate. What is it again?
Alternate universe. Yep.
Right, alternate universe. And then I'm going to end it with this tonight. And I love your show. Thank you so much for people like you and everybody at WABC who promotes the Republicans and Trump.
Thank you.
I've come to this. This is my answer. What I think that about 52 to 53% of Americans are stupid. They don't have common sense, and about 45% do, and there's a few in the middle. But I think it's now to the point, because of the indoctrinated schools and all those kids. Think about everybody right now who's, like, say, 18 to, like, 40. Everybody in America, they're all, some aren't, but 70% of those people were indoctrinated in schools over the last 30 years. And I truly believe that there's a higher percentage of nonsensical people than sensical.
Well, and I think some of it's I hear what you're saying. I think it depends on the school. And I think some of it is I don't like to call people stupid, but I do call them misinformed. And I do call them getting bad role models too, like young people. I feel like, like if you see sometimes these people, you go, okay, well, and you see their parents saying the same thing, or you see their teacher at the college saying the same thing. And I go back, Fran, I think about also during the protests at like Columbia and elsewhere, a lot of times it was the teacher or faculty that were leading the charge, leading the protests, some of them awfully vile and disgusting. So I think there's a lot of problems that need to change. And I think good people still need to speak up and voice their opinion, do it appropriately, do it democratically, and also get out and vote. because vote like your life depends on it, and the values of this country depend on it, because the values of our country certainly do. And Fran, with good people like you and others that listen to the show, hopefully common sense prevails. I believe it will. 1-800-848-9222, 1-800-848-9222. And we'll continue your calls on The Rita Cosby Show right after the break.
You're listening to The Rita Cosby Show. This is The Rita Cosby Show.
And boy, oh boy, it is a busy news night. Many reporters are stationed out of a jail in Florida waiting for Tiger Woods to be released, because under Florida law, they could spend at least 8 hours in jail. So that means that he could get out at any moment. And this comes after another big accident. They're saying also, authorities there, that he showed signs of impairment after the crash. Amazingly, he's okay. Also, the other vehicle, too, as well. Individuals in there are okay. But this is not good news for this acclaimed, amazing golfer who's just had a history of so many different crashes and problems. Remember, in 2021, he was driving, and I think it was an SUV, and he was found several feet away from the center divider. That crash was very bad in Southern California. He had big injuries and couldn't return for some time back to the golf game that he loves. He's an amazing golfer, but clearly there are many problems here with substantive. Wow. Let's go to Isabel in New York City. Line 3. Go ahead, Isabel.
Hi, Rita. First, congrats.
Isabel, I can't hear you. You got to call back. Give us a call back. Let's go to Norman in Brooklyn. Line 1.
Yeah, hi, Rita. Yes. Concerning the war in Iran, concerning the midterms, I mean, I'm very optimistic. I mean, I think the war is going well. I think we're going to win the midterms. And so does Dick Morris, because I heard him a couple of weeks ago when I went to go see Bruce Blakeman.
By the way, he really does. Norm, stick with us, because I want to talk more about the politics of all of this with you. Hang on, if you could, Norm, and we're going to talk more with you after the break. Norm thinks that the Republicans are going to keep both houses. Let's see.
Rita Cosby is on.
Well, I'll take whatever I want, and baby, I want you. You give me something I need. Now tell me I got something for you.
Well, I got something for you, Norm, because you were talking about the midterms and why you think that the Republicans will have a good midterm and sort of buck the system. Usually it's the party that's not in power in the White House that wins. But before I go back to Norm, here is J.B. Pritzker. This could be one reason, because after that horrible death of the 18-year-old Sheridan Gorman there in Chicago, as Fran was saying earlier when he called in, I can't believe J.B. Pritzker blamed it on Trump. It's like crazy land. Listen to this.
There have been real failures. Those failures, of course, extend beyond the borders of Illinois. That's their national failures, a failure to have comprehensive immigration reform, a failure of the president to follow his own edict to go after the worst of the worst.
It's a failure of the president because you have soft on crime policies in your state and you have a revolving door of justice and sanctuary cities. That's the most incredible thing I've heard. Other than, listen to this one. This is, again, the Chicago alderman this week, Maria Haddon, remember, who blamed essentially the victim. It sounded like she was blaming Sheridan Gorman for her own death by an illegal. This is that wrong place, wrong time, horrible line that she said.
I feel so badly. He's got some difficulty. There was an accident, and that's all I know. Very close friend of mine. He's an amazing person, amazing man, but some difficulty. I don't want to talk about it.
And this is 35. This is the alderman. We'll get that in a moment because we're going to get back to that. But this is actually where she is going after and saying wrong place, wrong time, essentially saying that this is a bad system, and also saying that maybe Sheridan Gorman startled the killer. I mean, that is disgusting. Here it is.
All the time, right? And they go out on the pier, they walk around. So the kids were out doing normal things people do in the neighborhood. And it sounds like this might have been a wrong place, wrong time, running into a person who had a gun. They might have startled this person at the end of the pier unintentionally. But that's
so crazy that this has happened. Can you believe this woman? And then she apologized. I mean, how ridiculous, saying she didn't think it was appropriate that her words were taken out of context. They were not taken out of context. 1-800-848-9222, 1-800-848-9222. Let's go back to Norm on line one. Go ahead, Norm.
Yeah, Rita. Well, listen, I wish I was a better student that day when Dick Morris was speaking, because he said we were going to win the midterms. Unfortunately, I wasn't a good student, and I actually didn't pay that well attention to why we were going to win. But my guess and my gut is telling me that the Democrats are acting in such an extreme manner that it's a big turnoff to America. And I do not consider New York America. I don't consider California America. And Minnesota, that ain't America. But most of the other rational states that are out there are looking at, New York and California and Chicago and saying, we don't want this. And I think that's what's going to keep the House and the Senate Republican.
Now, do you think both houses, Norm? You're making a proclamation now that you think both houses?
Yeah.
Wow. And I heard what you said before. Dick Morris also believes so. I think it's a long shot, but who knows? I mean, if you look at it right now, it's like crazy town. I mean, the Democrats truly are crazy town. So I think if Republicans go out there and say, "Here's the facts,"
right? They're overacting. Have you ever seen them this crazy? Vocal?
No.
I don't remember them being this vocal and crazy.
I don't either. Yeah.
So this is something. There's something totally nuts out there. It's So I don't know. Could this be just psyops on their part? Some kind of psychological operation to get I don't know. I see New York going to hell. I don't see it getting any better here. I see us creeping towards, some sort of a communist. I don't know what the hell it is here, but the rest of America is looking and saying this is crazy.
Yeah, I think so too, Norm. I think so many people are looking, like you said, from the outside and saying, "What?" And even I think a lot of people in New York are going, "What?" I think they didn't expect maybe some of the rhetoric that they were hearing, that it was real, and it is real. I mean, if I can say anything about the mayor, he's delivering on what he said. I mean, he said he's XXX. He tried to mute it a little bit, but he didn't totally deny it either. And here it is with big old neon signs. Norm, thank you. Listen, I hope you're right, because if the Democrats get in power and if they mean what they say with some of this craziness, America's in trouble. That's all I got to say. It really is in trouble. We don't want to go back. You don't want to go back to open borders. You don't want to go back to constant gridlock. You don't want to go back to impeachment central. You don't want to go back to what we're seeing already right now with the blocking of ICE funds and custom and border protection. This is lunacy. It is utter lunacy, and America is suffering greatly. Let's go to Phil in the Bronx on line 4. Go ahead, Phil. Your thoughts tonight.
Hey, Rita. Good evening. Good to hear your voice.
You too. We miss you, Phil. How are you doing? How have you been? We haven't heard from you in a while.
Yeah, everybody, the family's okay. I'm all right.
Good.
Listen, I want to talk to you about an idea here. I ride the subways pretty much, going here and there to work or whatever, or just riding, visiting people. And one thing I see on the subway is no ICE. There's no ICE people whatsoever. All these assaults and attacks that have taken place on the subway, where the guy was pushed to his death, that guy Richard Williams, an honorably discharged vet who had a good service record. That's sinful. That's sinful.
It is.
And there were other victims. Many people are dying on the subways by a lot of these push and shoves and also by physical assaults. My point is this. What I don't understand is, where is ICE? We need ICE on the subways and the buses, too. Because I rode on a bus here in the Bronx. I rode on the 12 Select. You got people carrying on like crazy. And I told one guy, I says, why don't you calm down? And I don't want to repeat what he said to me, but it was in Spanish, but I understood what he was saying. He's saying, I'm taking your country. I'm taking your country. That's all he kept saying. I'm taking your country.
Wow.
This is no good. This is no good, because we need to encourage safety on the trains. Enough with the people being pushed and shoved, stabbed, physically assaulted, or slashed. This is basically a lot of these illegals who have hot tempers and don't care. And even in El Salvador, final comment I got real quick, El Salvador is now promoting, it's a tourist country. It welcomes all tourists all over the world, and the country is completely calm and neutral and safe. All the people were sent to the United States. They even say that in the promo. They say that we reduced our criminal population. Yeah, sure. They sent them to New York, to Chicago. You know what I'm saying?
Right. It is. It's like come one, come all. I want to go back to where you first started, Phil, because you ride the subways a lot, as you mentioned. And there were times where we have seen a number of National Guards sometimes deployed, because that's sometimes their bailiwick. But we haven't seen them called of late. And a lot of times, mayors or governors don't want to call the National Guard, especially a governor doesn't want to call, because then it's like, oh, well, there's a problem with crime, so we don't want to do it. They feel like it draws attention to a problem that I think a lot of people are trying to hide. But your point's a good one. So would you be happy to see more armed National Guard there?
Well, I'm going to tell you the truth. About a month and a half ago, I had to go to Brooklyn. I had to go visit someone in Brooklyn, and I was on the 2 train, and I got off at a certain stop, and there were 2 National Guardsmen there. Okay, they were clearly identifiable, no masks or nothing, but they had the uniform and everything. They had no weapons visible, and I asked them. I said, "It's good to see you guys here. Why are you here? I'm just curious." And he told me, he took me on the side. One of the guards took me on the side and said, "We were ordered to be visible, and that's it." I said, "What do you mean visible and that's it?" He said, "We cannot interact with anyone." And I'm like, so in other words, you're mannequins in a storefront. And he said, "Well, I wouldn't put it that way, but that's close enough." Wow.
And I think, maybe that's what they were ordered, like you just said, that they were told to do. Because I'm sure they would like to do a lot more than look like mannequins, and they can only do with whatever they are being ordered to do. But I also think even just sometimes the presence of a National Guard, even if they're, quote, mannequins and told to be mannequins, versus doing what they'd really love to do. Sometimes even just that is something. I'll take that. I mean, anything, because you're right. I think the subways are downright scary. And I think the fact, and we have to do more about these crazy people that are pushing people on the trains, like this illegal with a track record, too. I mean, that's disgraceful, Phil, that this is happening in this country, in America, and that you can't feel safe on an American subway. So I think even I'll take a great man or woman in the National Guard who's armed, who's keeping an eye on everybody, because even sometimes that's enough just to thwart a bad person if they see that kind of presence there. But I agree with you. We need more of them. What else do you think can be done? Is there anything else that, especially with the repeat offender, the revolving door system, Phil?
Well, I don't like the idea that a person gets charged with a serious felony. The problem, and the judge says, well, I guess we'll give you a chance, and then another chance, and another chance. The judges have to be called to task. It is incumbent on the public to call up or write to the chief justices, the administrative justices behind these so-called criminal court justices at Center Street and so on in various boroughs, and tell them this is no good. You're letting these people out. Your judges are letting people out. And maybe something could trickle down from the administrative level, to kind of like stabilize this a little more and stop this process.
Yeah, I agree. There needs to be a wake-up call to them. And I also think some of these, I'm hardcore on some of this. I think some of these judges, if they knowingly are let go of these repeat offenders, their name should be out there. I'm not for like doxing them at their home, but it should be out there. They should somehow be held accountable, I believe, because I don't think you should be able to get out there and just because you feel soft on crime to let these, criminals get out, especially those with violent track records. And then they're unleashed on society and then your job's done. But the rest of society is stuck with this individual. I mean, that's the other thing. So I like some sort of accountability there. And there definitely needs to be some. There is no doubt about that. Phil, thank you. It's really great to hear from you. I'm glad you're doing well. And you got to call back soon. You always say such important stuff. And stay safe there when you go on the subway too, Phil. Thank you very much. Let's go to Mitch in the Bronx on line 2. Go ahead, Mitch. Your thoughts tonight.
Yes, hello. I also was calling about the subway system and specifically about people being shoved onto the tracks. And the reason I'm calling is this. As you mentioned, Richard Williams, the 83-year-old man who was thrown to the tracks, died March 17th. And my question is, where are the barriers? Where are the protective fences or gates? And the answer is they're not there. In other words, in 2013, I started a crusade to try to get them to put the what they call platform doors on, and they're not doing it. And I asked Bill de Blasio directly. He was where I live in the Bronx. He came to a community meeting because he was running for mayor, and I asked him face to face about that. And he said, "We'll look into it." Well, it's been 13 years since that time. I don't think he's done much looking. But the thing is. And then Andy Byford, the guy who was running the MTA, I asked him, and he said, we can't do it because our platforms don't align with our train, our nonsense. In the meantime, they have said in the last few years they are putting up the barriers. And the man who runs the subway now, Jan Oliva, was on TV saying that the barriers are being put up and that they're doing many of them. They've done more than 100 of them. I haven't seen any. But from what they showed on TV and what they showed in the newspaper of the barriers, it looks like they're very short. You could easily jump over them or be thrown over them, and it looks like they're not really that. They don't have any substance. They can easily be knocked over, and that's ridiculous. What they need is to have barriers from the floor to the ceiling that are activated either by the conductor or remotely by a computer. And the barriers should remain closed until the train is in the station, the train is at a complete stop, and the train should not be able to move the barriers should not be released until the train. Once and all the doors are closed, because that's the only way. I know that they have it in South Korea, they have it in Japan, they have it on the air train, but they don't have it on the New York City subway system. And
yep, you know what, Mitch? You hit a very, very good point. We do need to have more in something like that. And I think that, and I think it's sadly a sign of the times. Like we need to have that. And I also think we need to have some more armed National Guards and others that are checking bags, that are watching for people who are jumping turnstiles And I say that because that opens the door to other things. It's a slippery slope. It's usually a good barometer. Just ask former NYPD Commissioner Bill Bratton with the broken windows theory. And also just more presence. Like you said, I think sadly we're living in that kind of a world, and there's a lot of crazy people. And if they're not going to remove all the crazy people, then we all have to feel safe. Great ideas. And we're going to keep bringing that up, Mitch, because that's very, very important. Thank you so much. And you stay safe. Everybody, we're going to continue with your calls after the break. 1-800-848-9222. But first, support our heroes.
The Rita Cosby Show presents Support Our Heroes.
And this is the Tunnel to Towers Foundation Support Our Heroes segment with a very powerful story from Alexandria, Louisiana, where a Navy veteran who helped Vietnam service members and beyond impacted by Agent Orange was honored this month, just recently, with the DAR Medal of Honor by the Louisiana Society of the National Society Daughters of the American Revolution. U.S. Navy veteran John Wells served his country honorably and then worked to right the wrongs after his decades of service. He said, "We are proud to help bring long overdue relief to those who have waited far too long for the benefits that they earned." One of them he also referenced was a landmark 2019 federal circuit court case, and it was ruled that Blue Water Navy Vietnam veterans who served within 12 nautical miles of Vietnam were entitled for federal help due to the exposure of Agent Orange. So that is a very, very powerful mission. And bravo to him for helping all of our great Vietnam veterans get the help that they absolutely deserve. And of course, to all of you Vietnam veterans, we love you and appreciate you here on The Rita Cosby Show. Welcome home. And thank you for your great service. And everybody, help America to never, ever forget. Donate just $11 a month to the absolutely incredible Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Be sure to check them out at T2T.org. That's T, the number 2, T.org.
You're listening to The Rita Cosby Show. It's The Rita Cosby Show.
So, by the way, tomorrow are these No Kings protests planned nationwide. Anti-Trump protests, just like last time. Let's see how big it is. I guess they're going to blame Trump for every problem in America, including an open border? The world truly is upside down. I bet they would. I mean, J.B. Pritzker blamed him for the death in Chicago. These people are nuts. Let's go to Steve in Brooklyn real quick. Line 2. Go ahead, Steve.
Good evening, Rita. How are you?
Good. How you doing?
Fine. Like I was telling the person I spoke to, I'm a retired law enforcement officer.
Yep, Steve, you got to go real quick because we just have a little bit of time left. Sorry.
Okay, well, talking about the National Guard, it's all a smoke and mirror show because my son is a current police officer, and they're told there just to stand there. And the only time they would actually help somebody is that the police have to do something, and they'll help the police.
But listen, I'll take that, Steve. I mean, that's better than nothing. And listen, there are a lot of really great folks who are in our National Guard. I'm grateful that they're even there. Sometimes just the presence alone. But let's talk further Monday, guys.
How many discounts does USAA Auto Insurance offer? Too many to say here. Multi-vehicle discount, safe driver discount, new vehicle discount, storage discount, legacy.
How many discounts will you stack up? Tap the banner or visit USAA.com/auto discounts. Restrictions apply.
LifeLock, how can I help?
The IRS said I filed my return, but I haven't.
1 in 4 tax-paying Americans has paid the price of identity fraud.
What do I do? My refund, though. I'm freaking out.
Don't worry, I can fix this.
LifeLock fixes identity theft guaranteed and gets your money back with up to $3 million in coverage.
I'm so relieved.
No problem. I'll be with you every step of the way.
1 in 4 was a fraud-paying American. Not anymore. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.